Here at A Couple Believe, we're all about inspiration. And that's why we teamed up with a company who's all about supporting the educators who inspire us every day. Teachers Insurance Plan, auto insurance dedicated to giving educators the special rates and great service they deserve. What's up, everybody? We're back with season 2 of A Couple Believe podcast. We're doing it from LeGrand Coffee House this year, where I bring you your daily cups of believe on a daily basis. And in the first episode, we wanted to start it off with my main man, my former teammate, Devin McCourty, Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots, all-pro, pro baller, now working with NBC with with Sunday football. It's great to see everything that you're doing, and also being a great parent and also a great husband. So I want to welcome you to our first episode of season 2 of A Couple Believe podcast, my brother.
Man, I appreciate it, and I love that. I'm a part of the newness. It's all the good feelings in the coffee shop, man. It's awesome being here, man. You already know the inspiration, everything you do for everybody else. But I think, especially for the guys that got an opportunity to play with you and see what you were like on the football field, your work ethic, nobody's surprised by anything you're doing, man. So I love being able to just get what you, chop it up, and break some bread, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Now, one thing we do have in common, man, we have great mothers. And I want to bring in and talk to you a little bit about Mama Phyllis Harrell and see, just a little bit. You give the background story about what she was like for you, and obviously the twin Jason growing up, and just the things that you saw from her and that you take from her to see the sacrifices that she had to make for you and everything that she'd been through in her life as well.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I think the good thing is you got her favorite twin on here. Instead of having Jason, you got me to explain it and talk about, man. But like you said, I think, what my mom was for me and still is for me to this day is the reason why I've been able to accomplish and do different things. And I tell my kids all the time, the Nana they see today, they call her Nana. I'm like, that wasn't my mom. I said, back in the day, I was like, she didn't take nothing. She caused havoc if she had to. But you said it, man. The key word is sacrifice. And, me and my brother, 3 years old, my father tragically passed away, had a asthma attack that led to a heart attack. So here she was with a 15-year-old son and then 2 twins. That now she had to kind of figure out what was next, what was she going to do. And, all she continued to do was what was best for her boys. And till this day, obviously she has 2 boys, made it, played professionally 13 years. They're always like, what did you do? How did you? And my mom always tells people, I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't do anything special. As a parent, you bring kids into this world. They don't ask to be here. You bring them in. That means you have the responsibility to take care of them and do any and everything you have to do to take care of them. And, you don't realize, for me, I didn't realize what that meant until I had my first kid. And I would call my mom all the time, like, man, you did this with 2 of us at one time. Like me and wifey, we're struggling and we're 2-on-1. So I just think about all of the best times in my life. My mom was either there or she was the reason that I was able to elevate and get there, whether it was playing on the football field, whether it was off the field, doing sickle cell, social justice things. I just knew all of those things that came from my foundation, which was my mom. She established that, and she made sure all 3 of her boys had that core foundation going out into the world as we all had to find ourselves as young men and eventually as grown men.
And my mom and dad, they separated when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And my dad passed away in 2018. But a lot of times people ask me, how did your mom raise you without that father figure in the house and the things that she had to do? And I always tell people, like, she was both. She was, she still to this day is on top of me with everything I do, nagging me, things like that, that it was just kind of normal not having that father figure there every single day on a daily basis. I tell people all the time, my dad was in my life. He was at all my games. He supported me. But my mom raised me and made me into the man that I am today. How would you say your mom did that for you guys as well without having that father figure in your life?
Yeah, man, it's funny because my mom would always say, like what you just said, that slogan continuously comes up, right? Women can't raise men. And my mom would always look and be like, says who? Like, says, like, why can't, like, if there's no man there, am I supposed to just tell my sons, hey, life's over. You're going to be a failure as a man. My mom did everything. I think exactly what you said. My mom never looked for anybody else to sub in. Whatever she had to be in those moments, she would become that. I'll never forget. We're 12 years old. We're in the house and we're joking around, and my brother has like a little mini basketball and he's dribbling inside. He's joking around. My mom's on the phone and she's on the phone, and you can't do this nowadays. So I preface this that, hey, we were safe. Everybody made it out. She was on the phone, and out of nowhere, she just threw a jab at him and he dodged it, got out of the way. But it was my mom's reminder of, like, you're at that age, right? You're 12 years old. You're starting to feel yourself. You're growing into being a teenager soon. She had to remind us that, hey, in this house, one person makes the rules and one person's the judge, and you will follow these rules. And I always look back at that now of how my mom transitioned into being super nurturing and taking care of us. And then as we became, young boys trying to find ourselves, she turned into still a nurturer, but when she needed to strike that discipline and make sure she brought the best out of us, she had no problem turning that on. And I think that it takes special kind of women to do that. And I try to tell young people all the time, like, when you have that, you might not see it in a moment right now because you're young, but like, you have a special person raising you. Follow them and do what they say, because it'll lead to greatness down the line.
It's so true, man. And just that toughness that they have about them, and nothing really breaks them. It's amazing to see. And I know you grew up in Nyack, New York, but you came over to Jersey to play high school football because you know what it was being here in New Jersey. Can you talk a little bit about your brother going to St. Joe's Montville and what that was like, adjustment to go into that school? And obviously, I've been there. I spoke there a few times, and let's just say McCourty twins are all throughout the hallways. They love you guys there. So tell me what that adjustment was like going to that school to play high school football.
Man, it's always a battle. My hometown, Nyack, New York, whenever they hear somebody say the McCourty's from Jersey, they go crazy. Like, they're not from Jersey, they're from New York. But I see both New York and New Jersey as my homes, because when, we went to St. Joe's, young kids, like, again, I tell people all the time, when we went there, it was a powerhouse. You think about, if you're from Jersey or New York area, you've heard of Don Bosco, Bergen Catholic, St. Joe's. You've heard of those schools. And when we went there, like, they're like, you got recruited. No, like, I went there 5'6", 5'7", 115, 120 pounds. Like, no one was looking for me and Jay to come and change the program or to be big names. So when we got there, it was a little overwhelming, right? It's an all-boys school. Very luckily for us, we went there with like a crew of people from our hometown that, we kind of went there as freshmen of like, we're looking for a better opportunity in sports and in academics. And it ended up working out. But it was a little bit of a challenge and an adjustment for us of being in that school and being in that atmosphere. But again, I tell people all the time, Jersey's been awesome to me. You said it high school, but it started in high school, and then ultimately, I'm sure we'll get into it, leading to Rutgers. But when I got to St. Joe's and saw what, again, no disrespect to, where I'm from and all of that, but like that North Jersey football and getting in Jersey football, it was different. Like, it was big time players. It was schools. I remember my freshman year going to St. Joe's versus Don Bosco, and you're seeing like they're ranked in the top 25 in the country, like in the whole United States. And that was the level of football that we got to go to when we went to St. Joe's. So eye-opening, and it really raised our level to go out there and compete and try to prove that we were the best. Because again, we went there small. People didn't think we were good when we got there. Football, basketball, anything, we had to go get it. And that didn't change. That mentality didn't change as I went throughout my career.
Yeah, that Big North football, it's different up there. I'm not going to lie. I went to a public school here in Central Jersey, and we always say we ball, but it ain't nothing like up there. And that level, it's just different. But as you mentioned, you had to grind and get it, as you know, and everyone else knows, to being a 2-star recruit. What was that like going through the recruiting process, and then obviously ultimately ending up at Rutgers? But take us through where it's not like being a 5-star, 4-star recruit coming out of St. Joe's Montville.
Yeah, man, it was frustrating, and ultimately I became a 2-star recruit. But the truth is, man, I didn't have any stars. I didn't get my stars until I committed to Rutgers, and then they were like, all right, well, if he going to Rutgers, like, we got to give him the freebie 2-star. But no, it really was. I think, and the whole climate of high school and sports has changed now. But when I was in high school, it was all about getting offers to make a decision your senior year. I know now these kids make decisions way earlier. But, going into my senior year, went to a camp at Rutgers, went to camp at Boston College, walked away from Boston College with an offer from New Hampshire, University of New Hampshire, and that was it. Going into my senior year, I had the University of New Hampshire, and I wanted bigger. I wanted a Division 1A scholarship, what it was back in the day, what we called it, and I was determined to get it. But it was frustrating because I remember my junior year, my high school coach didn't believe in legendary Coach Carthage, didn't really believe in sending out junior film. He felt like it hurt you more than it helped you. So then my senior year, I'm like, I got to get the ball. I never played on offense really because we were a running team. I was a wide receiver. That don't work out well. You end up playing offensive tackle, just split out wide. So my senior year, I was like, you know what? I'm going to play receiver. I'm going to do all of these things. And still, we play, the first 3 games. Nothing, no offers, nothing else is coming in. Jay picks up a Rutgers offer, picks up a Boston College offer. And, I think mentally being a twin, your whole life, you're the same, right? Everyone wants to see you compete against each other. But my mom raised us as equal. She wanted us to be close. So it was the first time in life for both of us where it was like, man, people were starting to see that we were different. They were starting to pick us apart. This guy does this, he can't do that. And it was frustrating. It was a little bit of humiliating of the feeling of, man, damn, why am I the lesser twin? Why am I not as good? I am as good. So going through that process and then, ultimately getting all the way to December, going on a visit to Rutgers and still not having a scholarship until that Sunday, that weekend and Sunday before you go home, you go in Coach Shiano's office and he offers me a scholarship. I still vividly remember being in the car, my mom, my brother, and I tell my mom, I'm not going there. They don't want me. I know they offered me to see if Jay would commit while I was there and we would go. And then, get home Sunday night and Monday, my mom's like, hey, and again, credit to my mom because she knew when to tell you the truth. And she was like, hey, sometimes how you get there doesn't matter. If you got to ride your brother's coattails to get there, all that matters is what you do once you get there. And man, I sat on that for a couple hours and I was like, damn, what else? I said, this is what I want. She's telling me what you want is here. It might not be how you wanted it to get here, but it's here. You need to go do it. And I know Shiano was pissed because I committed and Jay was still going to Boston College the next weekend. So, and if we just found out, and you'll like this, we found out maybe 6-7 months ago, Jay was with Coach Rizzi and Coach Rizzi was like, that Monday night when Dev called, Coach Shiano cursed me out because we got the wrong twin. So I still get on Shiano to this day about thinking I was the wrong twin. And we all know I ended up being better than Jay. So they got lucky.
Yeah, that's a story right there, man. Coach Rizzi coming in there telling you that. That's awesome, though. But eventually, obviously, we know both of you committed to Rutgers. And Jay, he, started playing on the field right away. It was right at the time, that everything was rebuilding and things started to shift for the Rutgers program. Tell me what that was like when you first got there and then working your way onto the field and obviously eventually becoming a star in that 06 game. I remember being a junior in high school, storming the field with everybody. So tell me what that was like when you first got on the banks.
Man, it was crazy because even playing in the New York versus New Jersey high school all-star game, being on the Jersey team and we had dogs in there, Malcolm Jenkins, Kyle Wilson, Jonathan Casillas. We had all of these different guys who ended up playing in the NFL too. And when you're at that game and you're going to Rutgers and these guys like Ohio State, South Carolina, they're like, yo, why y'all going to Rutgers? They're killing us. And fast forward a couple years later, you getting the messages on Facebook like, yo, what's Coach Susan's number? I'm trying to transfer back home of guys trying to come back because of what we were able to do. And that which was so cool. But I know for me, when I first got on the banks, I was like, man, I did make a mistake. They really did. And you know how you know right away, we get on campus and they give us our jerseys or they let us know the jerseys. And J-Mac got number 25. Maybe not what he wanted or whatever he thought, but 25 is decent DB number. So I look at my number, I got 39.
Bruh.
I said, oh no, they don't want me. 39 at corner/safety. I was like, I'm destined to be a failure here. And you go through that first year, non-travel lifts, not playing. being a red shirt, waking up, working out at 6:30 in the morning. I told myself, though, I was like, all right, this is going to pay off. This is going to pay off. And then going into the next year, we're in spring ball. I play really well. I leave spring ball as a second string safety. And, as a young guy, I'm like, this is the best that I could have done, because our starter safety was Ron Girolt, who was a baller, was my high school teammate. So I knew how good he was. And I was like, man, I'll wait my turn. I'll figure something out. But like, I earned this second string spot. And one of my good friends now, he comes back in training camp. He moves right back to second string. I go back to third string, which in training camp, that means you're on the other field. You're not with the guys. And I remember calling my mom that second year in training camp and saying, hey, you got to pull up, my mom kept record of everything. I was like, you got to pull up all of the schools that we thought I would go to, Division I, AA, call them up, UMass, Delaware, get all the numbers. And I'm going to transfer. I can't do what I did last year. I told my mom, I said, I can't sit on the bench and not play. I rather, if I don't go to the NFL, whatever, it is what it is, but I want to play. And she was like, you know what? I'll get all the information, but let's give it a week. And gave it a week. The guy that was in front of me ends up getting hurt again. I stay as a second string guy, go into the first game as my redshirt freshman year, second string, everything basically on. I think kickoff and maybe punt return, but everything else on defense, second string. And I remember being in that game like, man, all right, I'm happy I'm on special teams, but this ain't it. Still, I want to play. And Jay ends up turning his ankle in the game. One guy bumps to corner for the second game. We play Illinois. The one dude, Joe Porter, he bumps to the starter. Somebody else moves over. Now I'm in on third down, maybe the second or third down of the game. Intercept the pass, cut back, pick six. And for the rest of that season, they kept me on that third down package. And honestly, it was a week away from me going into Coach Shiano's office and telling him that I was going to transfer, because I just couldn't envision sitting on the bench any longer. And it's crazy just how 1 week, how God has a plan, even sometimes when you think yours is better, point you in the right direction.
That's crazy. And a lot of people don't know, especially as a DB, the way to work your way on the field is that third down package. I remember when we got there, David Rowe, came in at third down, and that's how he worked his way in. But obviously, I got there in 2008. By then, you guys had already been well established. I got to play with your brother Jay for 1 year and then you for 2 years. But can you talk about what we learned about some of the things that we went through with Coach Shiano and those training camps and those toughness? But it led you to be one of the smartest players that Coach Bill Belichick I remember he said he drafted the smartest player that he ever drafted was you. But can you talk about some of the things that we learned about? And still, those Shianoisms still stick in our heads. I know it's in your head still to this day, bro.
Man, that's when you know you're getting old, when the old guy, when we start connecting and we start saying all this stuff that he used to tell us over and over again that we hated. And you'd be like, man, I've been using that till this day. I tell people so. But I will say that the funny thing about you is when you got there, you were kind of like the 2008, you were their group's Kevin Malice. Because for us, we had Malice. When Malice came in, he was like, man, this is my dream school. This is all I ever wanted to do was play for Rutgers. And the rest of us was kind of like, it's cool. We want to be here. But he just had that kind of energy and edge to him. And when you got there, you were the same way. You could tell that you kind of all throughout your high school and middle school that you watched Rutgers and you dreamed to be a part of it, because when you got there, it was like, yo, he could come do the E-Foss rendition of the locker room breakdown. Just your energy and dedication, you could tell was so unique, man. And you needed that when you got there and you played for Coach Shiano. Because I tell people to this day, I got to New England, Bill Belichick, scary guy. I would play for Bill Belichick way before playing for Coach Shiano. When you talk about how hard things are and what's expected, Coach Shiano was at a different level. Training camp, that little thermometer be on the field, 115 on the turf today. We in it. We going. Somebody mess up. We running more gases. I'll never forget all my guys, I redshirted, so I come back for that fifth year, and we go to do winter conditioning. And, winter conditioning, for anybody that doesn't know, we would start off with 2 laps around our bubble field, and you could not touch the white. You couldn't touch the out-of-bounds white. And 2 times we do it, somebody touched both times. Shiano said, you know what, just get on the line. And we ran cross fields and back over and over again for an hour straight. I will not forget. Because it was my 5th year, I had one independent study. So for that day, I had no classes. I went back to my room, my house, and I slept for like 5 hours. Called my brother and was like, I should have left. I should have left and just became a free agent and tried. It was just like, that was what Shiano was. And I tell you, and you hinted on it. I got to New England and guys were complaining about certain things. And I was like, one thing I tell you is everything Shiano told us about the NFL was true. I got there and felt so at home. It felt easier than college. Like the business of football wasn't a big deal to me. So I have to give a lot of credit. As hard as the program was, he prepared you. For me, it was the NFL, but overall, he helped prepare guys for tough times in life that was going to come, and he helped prepare us to go into, be a man, whether it's being in a family, whether it's being in a group of friends, whether it's being in business. You learn how to be a man of integrity and to go do those things day in and day out. So I have to give a lot of credit to Shiano, because to do that for a large group of men is hard. I have 2 boys now that are 6 and 3, and it's hard trying to get them to stay on the right page, listen day in and day out. I cannot imagine being responsible for over 100 young men and like their lives going forward and leadership and mentorship. So a lot of credit to him.
Yeah, I still, to this day, people ask me all the time, like, dealing with this injury, what it's like. I said, there will never be anything more physically demanding I ever have to do for the rest of my life than what we did playing for Coach Shiano back in 08,
Yep.
09. That 09 training camp was all about toughness and mat drills in the middle of spring ball. We was doing some crazy things back then, man. So I always tell people, what I went through then definitely has set me up for everything I got to deal with
No
physically,
doubt,
mentally,
no doubt.
emotionally, because of that. But now, the funny story, I actually just saw this, and I didn't know this story that came out about the draft day and you and your brother. I had no idea about this. So we're going to ask you about you being in the bathroom and your brother answering the phone when Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft are calling to draft you. Tell me what that was like on draft day. Spend the first round pick, bro. Like, how about leaving my phone? Tell me about this, bro.
For one, I love talking about New England with you being a diehard Broncos fan. So back in the day, those are some heated matchups, man. But it was funny too, because now this was our second time around with the draft, because Jay had got drafted the year before, and we watched the first rounds and the early rounds kind of like for fun. Jay wasn't projected to go in those rounds, and he always laughs and jokes because, like, we were outside dribbling the basketball, joking around, and when he got drafted, it was a Bud Light commercial, and it just scrolled on the bottom of the ticker, Tennessee selects Jason McCourty with the 203rd pick in the draft, and we laughed about it because the next year it was so different, right? I was projected possible first round, maybe second round. So I remember at the time, my agency and the PR staff, they got ESPN cameras were going to come in to the house. We had talked about it. Morning of the draft, ESPN calls like, hey, sorry, we can't do the cameras in your house. I'm like, oh, damn. ESPN knows I'm not going to be a first rounder. How do they know? Like, because I'm like, why else would you just pull a camera from somebody's house the day of the draft? So, I live where I live, since I was like 10 or 11 years old. So people just start showing up at the house. Like I didn't do no party or anything like that. People just started showing up. Like, yo, we just gonna go to their house, man. Dev's gonna get drafted tonight. So now, next thing you know, I'm sitting there. We got like 15 to 20 people, some family that we already had there, brothers, couple aunts, and everybody's in the house. So now the draft going on, teams trading back. We getting into the 20s. I'm like, damn. Like, this is about to be so embarrassing of all these people here and you not get drafted. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go in the bathroom, go to the bathroom real quick, come back out, and just kind of settle down. Kind of went in there to just get, and sure enough, J-Mac come, knock on the door. He's like, yo, you just got drafted by the Patriots, but it was Kraft. Now they putting Bill on. I ain't talking to Bill. And gives me the phone. And, again, surreal moment, I think, especially for both of us because, I already explained how I got to Rutgers and where my journey started and how people viewed me. And I would say even at times how I viewed myself. Shoot, after my freshman year, I had told all my guys, Taekwon, Jay, Courtney, I'm like, hey, y'all go make it to the NFL. I'm going to be an agent. I wasn't playing. I said, I'll be y'all agent. So for me to fast forward and, 4.5, 5 years later to be a first-round draft pick and to be the first time in school history to have 2 first-round picks with AD going, I think he went 11th in that draft that year. Yep. It was just like, I never would have thought that would happen for me, and I think especially for our family to look up and be like, man, Jay was 6th-round draft pick, but he had started 3 games before for Tennessee. So to look up and be like, man, we're both about to play in the NFL. Like, this is crazy. Just a surreal moment.
That's awesome. And then obviously you played for the dynasty New England Patriots and everything the success that you guys had on that field. What was that like? Obviously now you said being the one that coming up, Jason was the guy in high school. Then he was the guy who didn't redshirt. And now you see all the success in the NFL. And then let's just say he was struggling going through some of those struggle city, bro. So what was that like when you guys started working together?
Man, you know what is so interesting is, and I tell people anytime that they tell me like they're either having twins or they're going to have twins, I'm like, everything about having twins is making sure that they do everything together. And when I say everything, I mean celebrate together. When one gets in trouble, they both get in trouble. It makes them rely on each other. And all throughout our life, I remember we were like 8 or 9 years old. We were outside playing, and the older kids gave us boxing gloves and was like, man, you guys got to box. We want to see who could beat the other one up. And Jay, listening to my mom, Jay's always the well thought out one, does things the right way most of the time. I'm a little bit of the wild card. Jay's like, well, I'm not going to swing because my mom told us we don't fight in public. I punched Jay right in the face. Mom puts us in the house for a week. You're not leaving. And you fast forward of how important that was for our journeys was we had a unique bond of like, we cared so much for each other and cared so much for each other's success that when we got into the NFL and I come in as a 1st-round pick, he comes in as a 6th-round pick, right away people were like, well, he's better than him. He's a 1st-rounder. He's a 6th-rounder. But the truth is we just cheered each other's success on. That's all we cared about. So Jay will always talk about it. My rookie year, he flew up from Tennessee, went to my playoff game. Every year I was in New England, he would always fly up. He stopped going to the game because he was like, it's too cold. He was like, unless you could give me a suite or some club seats, I'm not going. But he would always be there to support me, always be at the house for a week or a couple weeks. Every Super Bowl trip I went to, he would come out, eventually bring his kids, come hang out. So that bond we had was so unique that we didn't have time to like hate on each other or be jealous. Like we were too busy supporting. And I think the coolest thing about Jay was he would talk about it. He was like, yo, I became envious though. Like I was so happy for Dev, but I also selfishly, I wanted to experience it. I wanted to go through that. I wanted to go to a Super Bowl and play in a Super Bowl, play in the playoffs. So it was really cool. And I always tell people the things that, that I think we lack a little bit, we admire the most in the other one because it inspires us to pick up our game or to get better in that area. And for me, watching Jay, I always admire how he would tirelessly work at something, whether it's now what he does media, how much more prepared he gets than I am. He wants to turn over every stone where I'm kind of like, bro, we're good. Like we studied, we did everything. We're good. And he's like, nope, we got to do more. We got to do more. And it pushes me to do more. And he'll always say about me of like, I have this confidence in doing stuff that like he doesn't always have. He has to go search for it. And it's cool because of how similar we are. We push each other and challenge each other in some areas where we're not as certain. And it does. It makes us, to me, in my mind, it makes us a great combination of when we go attack things and when we can collaborate. I think it brings the best out of both of us.
Honestly, it's admirable to see. You can tell the relationship that you two have with each other. Obviously, you guys joke around and stuff, but the bond is real. The family's real. You guys get together. The way that I watch you guys grow up, it's like, wow, those two grew up. They were raised the right way. They love each other. They support each other. As you said, there's no jealousy there. And that's honestly cool to see. And that leads me to you getting your brother to New England in 2018 and being able to go on that Super Bowl run. I need you to tell us what that was like, and for your families. Obviously, your mom didn't have to wear the split jersey anymore between the Titans and obviously New England. But tell me what that was like getting your brother there and then going on that Super Bowl journey together.
Yeah, man, like, the persona that Bill Belichick has is like you kind of don't mess with Bill. You let Bill, handle what he handles. And people used to always talk about, why Bill didn't keep, some of Tom's favorite targets. And it was like well known that like Bill's going to do what Bill does and what he thinks is best for the team. And I remember 2018, I'll say even 2017, Tennessee does Jay dirty, waits, a week before the draft to cut him, and it came out as he wouldn't accept the pay cut, but he gets mad because I always take a shot at Tennessee because to me what they did was wrong. They tell a guy, hey, you're making this, we're going to cut your salary all the way down from 7 mil to 1.7, and you're going to probably be the fifth corner if you make the team. But this is what we want to do. So quite naturally, anybody's going to be like, well, if you're telling me you're going to cut my salary and I might not make the team, then yeah, you cut me now. But it was a week before the draft. So I remember eventually he gets the call maybe in May, and Cleveland calls, and I'm like, don't go. Don't go to Cleveland, bro. Goes to Cleveland, they go 0-16. So the next year, that offseason, I'm like, yo, you got to get out of Cleveland. And he was already on it, and he told our agent, hey, if I got to go back to Cleveland, that's it. I'm probably going to retire. And I remember he went in to the office. I think it was Dorsey was the GM at the time, and they were like, hey, we're going to let you go. Respect you as a veteran, everything you've done in this league. So we want to give you an opportunity to get on a team early. So we're going to let you go. And I text Brian Flores, who was our defensive coordinator at the time, and I'm like, Flo, Jay just got released. You think we would want him? He was like, I think that will help us. I'm going to look into it. So I text him back maybe 5 minutes later. I'm antsy now. I'm like, hey, man, should I just call Bill? He was like, yeah, do that. So I text Bill, hey, Bill, Jason's getting released. All I'm going to tell you is 2 McCourtys are better than 1. LOL. No response. No response. Don't hear back from Bill at all. Like 45 minutes, an hour later, Bill calls me. He's like, hey, we're going to trade for Jay. It'll just make it easier. We won't have to do any contract stuff. We're going to just trade for him. So I FaceTime him, and I'm the first one that tells him he's coming to New England. I FaceTime him. He's like doing rehab stuff. And I'm like, hey, welcome to New England. And he's smiling like, bro, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, we just traded for you coming to New England. And he came in, flew into Jersey. I drove him up to Massachusetts. Unbelievable. I mean, that was the dream of all dreams. It was like, make it to the NFL. But if we can play on the same NFL team, so to do that for 3 years, and then obviously 2018, the magical Super Bowl run. And I always tell people, he used to tell a story of going to the Super Bowl felt like the kid outside the window on Christmas watching his family open gifts, but you couldn't get inside. You just wasn't invited. And in that Super Bowl game, I felt like a spectator on the field watching him just play an amazing game, pass breakups, obviously the big breakup on Brandon Cooks in the end zone. Seeing him not just make it to the Super Bowl, but to play one of his better games and make big plays for us to go win a Super Bowl. That was one of the times I felt like a true older brother watching your younger brother make plays. It was unbelievable.
And yeah, I remember him always talking about that. The week leading up to the Super Bowl, you're going through all the festivities, the family's there. You're going through the media day. He's on the outside looking in, watching it. And it's just cool to see that you guys on that field. And like you said, that pass breakup in the back of the end zone, that's that famous pass breakup. So that was cool to see. But I want to transition to some of the stuff now that you were doing off the field now, but also before, obviously with the social injustice, what you're trying to do in the Black community and being able to help and elevate on levels that a lot of people can't do, and also to tackle sickle cell and what that means to you. So you want to jump into just explain a little bit how you got involved with obviously tackle sickle cell, and also being able to help and elevate the Black community and bring us to levels that most people can't.
Yeah, man, I think, it all started, and, huge shout out to my aunt, like I spoke about earlier. My father passed away when I was young, And, his sister, my Aunt Winifred, she stepped up. She didn't live far from us, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And she would come by if, we made it on an honor roll. She would treat us and take us all out to dinner. Like she just tried to fill the gap of us not getting to know our father well. And, we watched her, and I think it really, we elevated and saw when we got to college, you start to grow into, being an adult, and we saw her struggles with sickle cell and what she went through. And, from there, we were like, man, we got to do something in sickle cell. And we started our Tackle Sickle Cell campaign, and the ability to raise money, raise awareness, to help families out. It's been more than I would have ever have imagined, because the money's great, and to watch some of the treatments and the cures that they have out there, but the human bond and relationships we built with families, and being there and hearing the stories of some families that experience heartache from sickle cell, but also being with families and seeing young people who kind of were a little shy and not sure of themselves, and talking to them. Like, we text one young man, and he's in college now. He has an internship in New York City. And I still remember when he was 8 or 9 years old, and how reserved he was, and to see his progress, and to just know that you played a small part in doing that, of helping him gain more confidence, and helping the doctors, have more funding to do different things. So the Tackle Sickle Cell, what we do with that is, it's in our aunt's memory. She passed away at 69, and have an uncle who also has sickle cell, and he passed away recently, and he actually passed away at 69 as well. And neither one of them was expected to live that long. So we continue to try to spread their story and their journey of what they went through with everything we do with sickle cell. And I think that's what led me into the social justice stuff, of understanding patients with sickle cell, how they get treated, of going into hospitals as adults and being seen as drug seekers, and all those different things led me fully into, around 2016, 17, of jumping all in, and, not to hit everything we did there, but being in New England and getting the opportunity to help commutate a man's sentence who had been sentenced to prison and life because of something called joint venture felony. He was a part of an armed robbery. He didn't commit the murder, but while there, the person he committed the robbery with murdered someone. He was young, 19, 20 years old, didn't understand that, hey, you're liable through the joint venture felony, through that law. That means, hey, you're going to get charged with murder too. He decided to go to court. He gets sentenced to life. The person who did it, they didn't go to court. They took the plea deal. They got out in 11 years. He spent 28 years in prison. And as a team, and, spearheading that, of getting involved and writing a letter to the governor, holding press conferences, and then ultimately him getting out of prison, was by far the best thing I've ever done as a professional, because winning a Super Bowl is great. Being a Pro Bowler, all pro, awesome. But to know you helped a man gain his freedom, I mean, again, when our team president, Jonathan Kraft, called me and told me the news, I got goosebumps. My heart dropped. Just knowing that I had a part in that was unbelievable. And I still talk to him to this day. Set up apartment, he's working. We'll get on the phone and talk for 45 minutes and just catch up. And that to me is something that's long lasting, that I just can't believe that God saw fit that I would have a part in that I would be a part of something like that. When I was a young kid and dreamed of being in the NFL, I never knew that the NFL and being a professional football player would take me down some of the paths that I got to go. And I think that's the cool and unique thing about anything you do in life, is a side journeys that you get to go along with, that some people won't know, but sometimes get to be, the most impactful things you do in your life.
I can't even imagine, man. Like you said, just to give somebody their freedom, that feeling on the inside it's incredible, bro. And I commend you for that, and everyone else behind
Appreciate
you
it.
to make that happen, bro. That's amazing. And now you're in the broadcast booth. You're doing your thing with, and now on the side of broadcasting. Tell me how you got into that. Obviously, your brother's doing it too. CBS, now he's on ESPN with the guys in the morning. You with NBC. Tell me how you guys got into now the broadcast side of the world and still being around the game of football.
Man, it's crazy, because and you know it too. When you're playing football, you're so tunnel vision. Like, you want to be the best player you can be. You want to win games. You want to win championships. And as you get to the NFL, you have a good run, and then it starts to come into your mind like, damn, like, what the hell am I going to do next? And when Jay got to the team in 2018, we started our own podcast, the Double Coverage Podcast. And, from doing that, we used to watch David Letterman of how he interviewed people. Like, we started studying and doing this stuff. And I think it was 2021, at the end of that season, we go out to the broadcast boot camp in L.A., and, big shout out to Tracy Perlman over at the NFL League offices. They put on this boot camp, and, it is top of the line. Every producer from all of the top networks are there. They bring in some of the play-by-play guys, some of the different hosts and different people that's on TV that are already doing a good job. They bring them in there to work with you for a 3-day window, and we go and we do it. We think we want to do media. We're not really sure that we want to do it. So we're just going to finally go to this boot camp, and boot camp's amazing. We walk away, we get great feedback of like, you guys really did well. You guys should be interested in doing this. I don't know what you're going to do. I knew I was going back to play another year. Jay had hurt his foot in Miami. He wasn't sure. So he ultimately decides to retire, walks away with 3 jobs from the boot camp, ready to go, and ultimately goes with NFL Network and Good Morning Football, and then also with the radio with Westwood One, calling some games on the radio. And my last year in 2022, I'm just watching him, and we're in a lot of group chats together, and I would text him on the side, and I would be like, hey, man, like, how is it? How's broadcasting? How you really feeling? As like a brother, you got to check in sometimes. You got to. And I remember he texted me back, and no, he called me. He was like, man, I'm happy. This is where I'm supposed to be right now. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm not supposed to be playing. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And throughout that 2022 season, I started to feel myself thinking about more things other than football. And I kind of knew that it was getting to that point. And so that season, it ends. And, I went back and forth. We had a rough year that year in 2022 and missed the playoffs. And I kind of knew at the end of that if I was going to play again, I was going to be 36 the next year. I knew if I was going to play at 36 years old, it had to be for a contender. It had to be with an opportunity to win. Because if not, I was like, I got my kids here. I got a family. I can't just do this just to do it. And I always told myself I would never play to chase stats. And I didn't want to do that. And I knew going back one more year in New England, all I needed was 1 interception, and I would move in to tie first all-time interceptions and all of that. And I was just like, you know what, like, I don't want to play for that. And ultimately, maybe a month and a half, I knew that I only wanted to play for the Patriots. I knew I didn't want to go play somewhere else. So I knew if that was the case, that it was time. And tough decision, because I kind of felt like I could still go. But I knew it was the right decision. And walking in, get off, retired, and then you walk into Football Night in America and met with one of the top execs there. And he must have said it 5 times, like, hey, highest rated show on TV, top rated show. And I'm like, man, I'm walking into the best of the best. It's like being a rookie again in New England. You're walking into the best of the best. And I couldn't ask for a better crew of, behind the scenes, whether it's our studio people and handling the stage and all that, or our production team, our producers, our researchers, like everybody just so welcome. And our day starts at 12 o'clock on Sundays. We watch all the games together. We're talking trash. We're eating. We're having fun. Like, it's talking trash about colleges. Like, everything comes in there. And it gave me another locker room. It really did, of hanging out with the people. And, I didn't realize it, but like once the season and the off season happened, I missed it. I missed going in there on Sundays, hanging out with everybody, watching the games, and was looking forward to getting back to work. And now we're two weeks in, and it feels like we picked up right where we left off, of hanging out and having fun. So it's been very rewarding, and I think that's the thing. When you get to retire in your 30s, you got to find something that is going to continue to push you and force you to get better and be challenging. And I get that at NBC, and then also calling games on the radio for Westwood One. I get challenged, and I have to continue to work on things to try to be the best, because that's what we all want to do. We want to be the best at whatever it is that we're doing.
Absolutely. And Got one more question for you, Dev, and I can't thank our sponsors enough, Teachers Insurance Plan in New Jersey, for sponsoring this podcast. And the one question I have for you that's left is, you think about your favorite educator, someone that really had an impact in your life that helped you get to where you are, to where you are today, and just give them a little shout out. Is it somebody special that you remember from growing up? And if you just want to give them a quick little shout out.
Yeah, man, I got two. I got my fourth grade teacher, Miss Roberts, and my eighth grade science teacher, Mr. Bennett. And I love giving them a shout out because I think one of the things that stuck out to me, like they were black teachers. They were teachers that not just black, but they kind of wore their blackness of. They would push us. They would talk to us in one-on-one sessions of, hey, like, this is what you got to do. This is what the world thinks of you. This is what you are. Like, I see it in you. You need to go do it. And, Miss Roberts was from Grenada, and, she had an accent. She talked about, and she pushed us of, like, talking about some of her hardships and what she had to do. And ultimately, I remember going back and speaking at my elementary school where she ended up becoming the principal there. Well, to me, it was like, that's why this teacher stuck out to me. Her ambition of what she wanted to do was exactly what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to break barriers. I wanted to be everything I wanted to be, no matter if I saw someone doing it, if I didn't see someone. And Mr. Bennett in eighth grade was like that upbeat teacher who cracked jokes, who got on us, who just made us feel like we could be ourselves in his classroom. Both of them was so unique. Upper Nyack Elementary School and Chestnut Ridge Middle School. Those two teachers always stick out to me. I'm years later and still can remember their names and can talk about them vividly because they had a huge impact on me when I was younger, and I needed it to make sure I never turned into a follower or try to be something that I wasn't. So huge shout out to them. Very grateful and thankful I had them a part of my journey.
Well, that's awesome, Devin. I can't thank you enough for joining us today on the podcast and being on. You're my brother. That our family is something that we live by. And whatever you ever need, I got you. And I know you and your bro be sipping on that wine, but I got to get you on that dark liquor soon. I got to get you to that bourbon side, brother.
I'm all for it, bro. We can have an old fashioned any day of the week, bro.
There we go. I love it, man. I appreciate it again. And say hello to the family for you. Thank you for coming on a Couple Believe podcast.
No problem. Appreciate you, E. Thanks for having me, man. Anytime.
This episode is brought to you by Mobility Works. As the nation's largest provider of wheelchair-accessible vehicles, Mobility Works has been helping people connect with who and what matters most since 1997. Visit mobilityworks.com to find your ideal mobility solution today.